Alright guys, Scrappy again today. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Kenny has revealed everything we need to know for the Esports World Cup, certainly from the OpTic perspective, and confirming that OpTic will be getting back into practice over the coming days, getting it ready for this $1.8 million tournament. Kenny also revealing that in his ideal world, they will stream at least some of this practice live to the public. His teammates may disagree, but if this does go ahead, it would be quite the insight into what exactly it takes for OpTic to have won the World Championship a couple of weeks ago. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, some Rostermania pieces to dive into. Miami Heretics confirming ErikBooM's time with the team is going to be over. First of all, kind of interesting it seems that many of these contracts have effectively run until after the Esports World Cup. Usually after champs, that's when people are free agents, etc, etc. But no, ErikBooM's substitute contract runs until after the Esports World Cup. He's going to travel with the team to there as a substitute just in case, and after that he's going to be a free agent. So ErikBooM, look, he had his moments. He didn't have many of his moments. He was in the team. He was out of the team. They made the changes. And, look, frankly, they improved as a result. So we'll see where he goes next season. Of course, there has been a fair bit of talk on Miami in general around whether they will look at Super or Rencor or one of these other very talented Spanish players that could potentially step up their team. But I definitely think the Spanish project has succeeded in some sense and is certainly not going away. This quickly from HyDra. Now, he's going to be a restricted free agent for the upcoming season from the Omit team, and we'll see where HyDra goes, because I think this year there was, obviously, he should have got on a team, I think, this year at some point, right? Last year on Toronto, he won the Major at Major 3, he then went to the World Championship, came seconds, and rumour has it that there was multiple opportunities this year for HyDra to potentially get back on a team, and you've got to say, even though teams might look at HyDra and say, well, does he have the firepower we need to win events or whatever, but he's literally done that on Toronto, and were Toronto any better this year on average with Envoy than they were with HyDra last year? I don't really think so. JoeDeceives says there were a couple of teams with interest. I'm pretty sure Boston was one, but that never came to fruition. And apparently Rocker was another. JoeDeceives actually says it nearly happens, him going to Rocker alongside Linz, which I'm not going to lie, well, I'm guessing that's what it would have been. That sounds like a pretty nice SMG duo to me, right? Linz and HyDra, I like the sound of that. It seems like they're going to run with, well, they are, it's confirmed, Linz and ErikBooM for the World Cup. Rocker, okay, G2 Esports. Gonna get a bit confusing, I'm not going to lie, with the names of these teams over the coming weeks. I'll do my best to keep you guys in the loop. But, yes, JKL says, really hope visas and the like are less of an issue next season. So, wishing the best for HyDra, of course, but definitely a player that after the way that this season went for certain teams, should absolutely be on the radar, because there's only so many SMG players that can do a job in the league. And I do think that HyDra most certainly could be one of them. Encourage as well, just a player to look for, because, well, a player that's been of note really the last few months or so as a potential next up talent for the scene, and he confirms he's unrestricted free agent for Black Ops 6. So just to keep an eye on that one. But let's talk about this whole Kenny Esports World Cup situation. Before we get into the scrim stuff, did want to mention what Kenny had to say on the actual state of the tournament, because he looked into the rulebook and found a couple of things that you guys pointed out in the comment section below yesterday, but I thought I'd mention them regardless today. So these are the groups, if you guys haven't seen them already and you've been living under a rock or whatever, and Kenny kind of goes through and explains $1.8 million tournament in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. One of these teams wins the grand prize. It's single elimination from bracket play and beyonds, but they are doing a major group stage, and to be fair, the groups are pretty stacked. Like, there's lots of games in these groups, and also the groups themselves are pretty stacked. Group B is very interesting. I think Group C and D and even A to some extent are pretty interesting as well. The thing that was worth noting though is that the rulebook does actually confirm that Group A will play Group B and Group D will play Group C. So I did kind of speculate on this just because if you are Group A, you have the number 1 seed here. So often the way that you might run the bracket is such that the number 1 seed is expected to play the lowest possible seed outside of that, which actually could either be D or B, because on Group D, FaZe are the 5th seed, Thieves are the 4th seed, so assuming OpTic get the number 1 seed in Group A, which they should, of course, as the world champions, then they would therefore technically play the, on average, the worst other seed. But the other option is to do it with Group B instead, where the theoretical second place team is the worst seed outside of the team that they've played in their group. So, bit confusing, but effectively the point being that Group A will play Group B, and Group C will play Group D come the bracket play. And that means means that assuming OpTic get out of their pool, they will play the second, let's say their first seed, they'll play the second seed from Group B, which could be Surge, could be G2, could be Gentlemates, could be Cloud9, of course, which is the New York Subliners. And if OpTic comes second seed, then there is a possibility of a rematch of the World Championship Grand Finals in the very first round of bracket play, which is literally a single elim bracket, right? So its loser goes home at that point. So, theoretically, a really big scalp will be going home top 8 bare minimum at this tournament. But that's how it works. This is the schedule, by the way. So on the 15th of August is group stage day 1. So Group A and Group B play on day 1, and I imagine they go through and basically conclude all of those groups. Group C and D then play on the Friday, and then the Saturday is the 4 quarterfinals, and then on the Sunday they play the 2 semis and the grand final. So in the World Championship it was obviously just the grand final itself, and in normal majors you'll have 4 matches or 3 matches, whatever it is, on the Sunday. This time it is going to be semis and final. So I think it's interesting that in favor of going for double elimination, they've gone single elimination in the brackets, but the group stages are longer, and the best teams should get out of the groups. But if there's an upset in the groups, all of a sudden it messes up the seeding, then the playoffs become very interesting indeed. So look, this is not considered by the players to be as important as the World Championship. This is the reason why the players haven't exactly been grinding necessarily. Some teams have, certainly teams that have made changes, but teams like OpTic, I imagine FaZe among others, they are getting back into practice in the near future because, well, it's the start of August today, and they will be flying out probably on like the 11th or 12th or something, because flying out from Dallas, it's a bit of a trek. I did look into it to see what it actually looks like for the players. Let's say you're flying from Dallas. The shortest possible travel, I think, is about 20 hours. And then you've got to account for the, I think, 8-hour time difference between Dallas and Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So it's a mega journey for these pros to take, especially if you're even flying from LA. I think one of the ways to go is from Dallas to like Washington, and then you can fly direct from DC. So it is going to be a trek for many of these guys, but it's going to be worth it, of course, if they win the grand prize. So Kenny's talking about what this means for OpTic, and certainly what their plans are, because obviously after winning champs, they're going to take a nice break. They're going to chill, they're going to relax. They've been on the grind for a long time. But Kenny says, look guys, we're not getting complacent. We still believe that we can win the World Cup. That is certainly the intention. We're going to get back into practice over the next couple of days to ramp things up again for the World Cup, and says that in an ideal world, they're going to turn on the streams.
Yeah, for all the people that are in here as OpTic fans, wondering how we're feeling going into the tournament, obviously we just won champs. Don't start pulling the complacency card. We got time to celebrate. We have time to practice. We're gonna start practice soon. We may stream them. We haven't really had the full conversation with the team yet about everything, but I feel like the wind's settling in. We're gonna get locked in. We obviously want to win the tournament for you guys, and we're playing under the OG. You know what I mean? So I want everybody to be excited for it, and don't count us out. You know what I mean? Don't count us out. But overall, I think the tournament's going to be a really, really cool tournament. I hope you guys tune in, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And like I said, at the end of the day, I hope our team agrees with the stream scrims, because it would be a cool aspect to show you guys a little insight to what we do during practice, so y'all can understand, how hard we're working, and, how we vibe as a team. Overall, yeah, this is kind of the tournament. I don't think I'm really missing anything, except we're obviously playing W3. That's obvious. It is in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh to be exact.
So I think Kenny has said this before. Maybe it was like, I think he was even on Thieves actually when he said this, and was like, look, I'm kind of down to stream some practice at the start of the season, but his teammates didn't necessarily agree. Would the OpTic guys though say, and I think they probably would, and I at least hope they do, you know what, 1 to 2 days of streaming practice, who really cares? And also you've got to understand, like, the World Cup is important obviously, but it's not quite the World Championship as it stands, and also after this tournament, there's no more Modern Warfare 3 ever getting played. So the idea of streaming some practice before a big tournament, which obviously is important, but it's only single elimination anyway, so you can imagine that there's going to be more upsets and potentially more fluky results than we might otherwise expect. expect. Who knows who's going to win the tournament? Big debate. OpTic are, of course, going to be there or thereabouts as favourites for it, but you can argue that streaming practice isn't really going to hurt their play going into this big tournament, and it's the last time we're ever going to play the game anyway, so everything that we see, it's not really going to matter because Black Ops 6 is coming out not far from now. So I think it would be in everyone's best interest, obviously I'm biased as a content creator, to want to see some of them behind the scenes here, but Kenny says, yeah, like, I'm down to stream some practice if the guys are down as well, once they're getting back into it, not getting complacent. That's certainly the plan. And I mean, look, we saw what happened with OpTic before. They won Major 3, they came top 12, they bounced back to wins. What's going to happen now? Can they maintain it? Are they going to drop off again? But to be fair, other teams in a similar position, I imagine, might be going through a similar thing, as in a FaZe, grinding hard. Have they been chilling out for the last couple of weeks? It kind of seems like it. How much of the Subliners been playing, or Cloud9 as it is now, how much of Toronto been playing? We don't really know the answers to these because nobody scrims, right? Nobody streams their practice, apart from like Vegas and Ravens, who have been streaming a little bit, but they've been playing primarily Rocker, Boston. Before we close out the video then, going through a couple more things here from Ronnie's top 25 players of all time list. He did confirm on the Reddit. Now this is so difficult to do, and I'm not going to criticize it too heavily because it's just like, you can do this so many different ways. He did say that he kind of wished that he left Parasite out and he put Zoomer in instead. That was, the Parasite I think was 24th, Dashy was 25th on his list, and he reckons that maybe Zoomer should have been in there instead. I think there's other people that are saying, what about Gunless? Because Gunless is not a world champion, but he was arguably the best player in the world, at least at a time, for about 3 seasons in a row. Infinite Warfare, World War II. Even in Black Ops 4, when they won Fort Worth, Luminosity Gaming that season, he's been an MVP multiple times, multiple event winner. So I think there's an argument that Gunless is at least there or thereabouts on the border of the top 25 of all time, but I wouldn't be necessarily putting him this high. 18 goes to Cellium. So yeah, is this about right for you guys? I think maybe it roughly is. Simp and aBeZy are obviously higher. He's won the World Championship once. Obviously, it's been mainly on FaZe that he's won events. Of course, he was on FaZe Clan when he first came in. Many finals appearances, 8 tournament wins, but of course, like, the finals record isn't as good in terms of like individual level, and in terms of success and numbers, it's not quite on the same level as a Simp or aBeZy. So, and obviously there's been big questions this year about Cellium's playstyle, like his impact as a player, this type of stuff. This though is John, who comes in at number 17, and I think this is probably fair as well. Personally, I don't think John over Cellium should be especially controversial. If you've been around a while, I think you'll probably know what I'm talking about here. Like, John was a phenomenal player for multiple years, been around so long as well. Like, he was a real force back even in Black Ops 2 winning events, and then through to Black Ops 3 where he won the World Championship and was the MVP. Was a monster at the end of Infinite Warfare as well, really good at games like World War II, and I think for me, 2 or 3 years ago, John was maybe 12th or 13th on the list. So, because the list kind of was like, okay, the top 5 is pretty obvious. Then you go 6 to 10. And then the 10th player was always like, is it Slasher? Is it aBeZy? Is it John? Stuff like that. But obviously over the last couple of years, we've had players such as Simp and aBeZy. We've had players now such as Shotzzy. And, those guys moving up through the ranks and knocking guys like John further down the pecking order. So I feel like this is about the right place to put him, but very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.